What is going on, everybody? So I hope y'all have had a happy Thanksgiving and ate plenty of food. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show how to install the Steeda cold air intake. I have the JLT intake already, so I'm going to try this one out just to see what kind of differences there are, if it feels any different in power, what the IATs are, because the Steeda box actually has the gasket or weather stripping around the whole box, and this seals off, whereas the JLT it just has this little sponge thing, and as you can see, air can still get in there. So we're going to start assembling what we can on the Steeda intake first. We'll uninstall the JLT and get the Steeda cold air intake installed. Now, I'm sure one thing y'all have noticed is I did paint the aluminum piece. Here are the tools that you're going to need to start the installation. A flathead screwdriver, a 10mm socket, 11mm socket, a 5x32 Allen head, and a 332 Allen head as well. The first thing that I did was attach this piece. Just a word of advice, I thought that the air box was going to cover up to this point. Apparently I was wrong, so you can still see a little bit of silver. If it really gets to the point that bugs me, I can easily sand this down and repaint it. But in case y'all decide to paint yours, make sure you paint past this line right here, but don't paint the inside of the aluminum housing. So you attach this just using the 4 5x32 Allen head bolts. Line it up, of course. Have where the MAF sensor attaches, have that part facing towards the front of the car. And to install this, you just fish the small side through the MAF sensor. There's actually a little square cutout at the bottom, and that's where that'll get fished through, and you'll turn it and get it lined up. The next step, we're going to install this barb, and this is the piece that's going to insert into the rubber grommet under the engine bay, or under the hood. So the way that this works, I'm trying to do this with one hand, is the bolt goes through the washer. Everybody knows how a washer works. You'll put the bolt in through the top right here, and then thread this little barb with the flat side facing up. So just like this, thread that and get it tightened. Again, that's an 11mm bolt. So I just like to get everything together. So now we have a hose and these 3 barbs or attachments for the hose fittings. I also went ahead and installed the sound tube cap, because I removed my sound tube a long time ago. The larger adapter is going to fit with the shorter side in this bigger hole. The shorter side on the smaller adapter that looks like this is going to fit in the top hole. And then this is going to slide into one end of this hose, and you'll use one of the supplied ring clamps to clamp that down. You also have a 90-degree connector that's going to pop into this single-sided hole right here, and the other side is going to pop into the other side of this hose. And again, you'll attach it with the supplied clamp. And then you also have this little plug. For whatever reason, there's a hole at the front of the airbox. Just pop that into the airbox. So to install these adapters, all you do is take the end that's supposed to go inside and just push it in there until it sits flush. They actually go in fairly easy, so you shouldn't have any issues. We can now go ahead and remove the stock and or JLT cold air intake. The JL intake removal is actually fairly simple, and it's pretty much the same across any intake. So what I do for the JLT, you should be able to do for the stock intake. So what I do first is I go ahead and pop up the engine cover, because there are going to be two clamps that need to be accessed down here. If you have a painted engine cover, I would recommend, if you have the strut tower brace, to at least loosen this side so you can get this up without messing up the paint on the engine cover. Since mine's plastic, I'm not too worried about it. Okay. And if it's plastic and you're not worried about ruining anything, you can just pull it out. So they're going to be, with the stock intake, there's just one clamp that you have to undo, but with the JLT I have to undo both of these. Bottom hose, what you have to do is take this little gray clip, locks in, so you kind of push it back, down, and up, and then you'll be able to pull this off. The top hose, you should just be able to push this down, and if you notice it opens up, pull that right off. And then the same goes for this hose under here as well. That one's going to be a little bit more difficult because I can't really, there we go. So push that button in, and that hose is undone. Now to remove the mass airflow sensor, there's a red tab. Pull that red tab out, and the mass airflow just pulls off. And then it's also connected right here to the air box. That's how that piece is held in. I ended up taking two hands and just pulling on it. So now what I'm going to do is loosen this clamp. And then for the JLT, this part just pulls right out. For your stock intake, what I would do is loosen this clamp. There's going to be another clamp over here. Loosen it. You could pull the tube out right there. You can, I think you can twist it a little bit and pull the tube off from here. Or you can leave it attached right here. You'll want to undo this bolt, which I believe is a 10mm socket. Yes. Remove that bolt. That's a 10mm socket, and the air box is just going to come right out. So when you remove the stock intake, you're actually going to need to kind of lift up and out to pull out the sound tube. When you remove the intake, you want to make sure to keep up with this grommet. On the stock intake, it actually is connected to it, so you have to pull this off. The JLT, it just kind of sat there. You want to go ahead and put that grommet back where in that big hole. Now all I have to do is remove, for the JLT, the second clamp back here. On to installing the Steeda intake. The coupling that is a large size at one end and a smaller size at the other end is the one that attaches to the throttle body. You'll notice that you'll get 4 of these clamps, or these metal rings. The smallest one goes on the side for the throttle body, and the medium-sized one goes on the side that attaches to the intake tube. And then there are 2 that are the same exact size. Those are used for to attach this other coupling, so that you can attach the intake tube to the aluminum piece. So to do this, what you'll do is I went ahead and put the clamp on there, slide the smaller end onto your throttle body. One thing I do recommend is to have the part to tighten the clamp, just like this. It's going to make for a cleaner look. It's also going to allow you to access the part to tighten the clamp down. Here I want to go ahead and compare the JLT to the Steeda intake. Of course, you have the metal piece that connects between these two. They look fairly similar, although I will say the mouth that goes into the throttle body is actually larger. So whereas the JLT, it's large, it actually shrinks down. I don't know how much that's going to make a difference in performance. The air filter though is much larger, as you can tell, so I'm hoping that'll help it breathe better and run a little bit cooler. We'll see. And then the air box, as you can see, is only sealed in certain areas, whereas the Steeda is completely sealed off as far as the top. So it should seal against the hood. As far as the design on the inside of the airbox, they should be fairly similar because they're made to fit the contour of the car. So that shouldn't be a big deal. We will be reusing the, I just drew a blank. The piece that feeds air from the bumper to the intake box. We're going to be actually using this. So what you'll need to do is take a screwdriver and just kind of pry around the edges. I'm going to have to use 2 hands for this. This actually just disconnects from the stock air box. To remove this, just take where those little notches are, take a flathead screwdriver and just kind of pry it, push it, work it. It didn't take a lot of force to get this to come off. Now we're actually going to cut this piece off, this little snorkel looking piece. A Dremel with a cutting wheel is what I'm going to use, so we'll see how this goes. Cutting this piece off is probably the most annoying task, especially because my Dremel wouldn't fit all the way around it. So if you have a saw or an electric saw or anything like that, I would recommend using that. I ended up, while cleaning up the hole, I drilled too much, or sanded too much out. So I just wrapped the plug that they provide in electrical tape so it fit tight, and then I wrapped it up just to make sure it seals well. I don't think it would make that big of a deal, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. This is the reason you had to cut that piece off, is because if you left it on, the part for the airflow would not fit. To attach it, all you do is, if you look towards the bottom of the airbox, there are going to be 3 Allen head screws. All you do is line up this piece. It'll only fit one way, and just push it. It'll slide over those bolts. So it's going to be held on similar to how the stock airbox held it on. So once you have that piece connected, you can go ahead and insert the airbox. Now this part's going to be hard to film and install, so I'm going to see if I can set the camera up. Okay, that's the best that I can do. So what you'll do is fish the piece that you connected to the airbox in there first, and just kind of.
Now, I didn't know this when installing the intake, but my camera had died while we were installing the airbox. So I'm just going to give a quick walkthrough of what's left to do. So when you get your airbox installed, there is the piece that feeds the air to the actual airbox, the part that you use from the factory intake, is going to seat right in there. So the way that's going to help make sure that it gets seated properly is make sure the filter's off. You can take your hand and actually reach up into that air feed and get it aligned up properly. Once you get that part aligned, then you can go ahead and bolt this bolt down. There's actually a J-clip it bolts into. This piece will already be installed, so you'll want to go ahead and install your MAF sensor. Wait to plug it in, but I went ahead and installed the MAF sensor, and then I also clipped it to the airbox. You're probably going to have to relocate this piece to get it to reach. Once all that's done, then you can go ahead and install the tube. Now, what I did was I put the coupling on this piece right here. This one's already on, and then I just put the tube in between them, connected them. You want to make sure that there's about an equal amount of this coupling on both parts. That way you get a good seal. Once you get the tube in place, everything looks good, go ahead and tighten all your clamps down. Make sure they're good and tight because you don't want to have any leaks. And then you can go ahead and connect all of your hoses. And then I used a different sound tube delete kit. It's one that I had ordered a while back. I just think it looks better, so I went ahead and used that. Once you get that installed, then you can go ahead and install your air filter. Now, if you have the intake that does not require a tune, you're going to have a restrictor that before you put the air filter on, you'll actually slide up into this piece, and then you can install your air filter. Now, since I went with the one without the tune, I'm going to go ahead, or I'm sorry, I went with the one that requires a tune. I'm going to go ahead and load the tune, run the car. If y'all have any questions or concerns, feel free to comment below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, y'all take care and you'll have a great day.